Good afternoon, children. Welcome to the classes. Let us continue with the last chapters of chapter number 3. I am going to finish the lesson today. We have 1, 2, 3 paragraphs to finish. Okay? Let's finish. Look into the text. I am going to read it. The chapter we are going to complete today. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him, with little ridges moving over it, and he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on the green flooring ahead of him. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise, exhausted by the strained exercise. His feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. See now, here you find an entirely different seagull. At the beginning, he was not confident on his wings and developed a fright of flight. But his mother seagull, she tricked him and tempted him with a piece of fish. His hunger forced him to dive. Once he dived, his fear disappeared. Now he is enjoying his first flight. Let us see. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly. He couldn't believe that he had once been a coward, and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. He's enjoying it now. He's shrieking shrilly. He's making sharp sound. He started praising himself when he found himself soaring and curving. And his parents were so happy to see this thing. Now he was coming down. He wanted to settle down. He has to come down. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He was scared. Just remember him. At the very beginning we found him scared of the vast expanse of the sea. He thought that he would fall down and die. Now the things changed. He was nearing the sea now. The great expanse of the sea did not frighten him anymore. That was. Now he is highly confident. He flew straight over the ocean, facing it. He was directly facing the ocean. No more scared. The ocean could not frighten him, because now he had shed his fear. Yes, he saw the green sea. He saw the green sea How can the green sea? How can the sea be green? Yes. Do you know why does the sea appear green? Yes, I think you are a science student. You know the presence of the algae, a green substance, and phytoplankton give a greenish shade to the ocean. The presence of algae and phytoplankton give a greenish shade to the ocean. Looks like. See, now let us continue. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him, with the little ridges and the water. The surface water was moving. There were ridges, wavy edges were there. And he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. He was so much amused by the waves. That means he was no more afraid. See, when he reached at the surface of the ocean, he found the little ridges, the long waves, and still he was not afraid. Instead, he cawed, he made the sound pleasantly, happily, fascinatingly. That means the ocean water, the expanse of the ocean couldn't lose his confidence. That means he had gained over him. He had become so strong. He had become so confident. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him, and the parents were waiting for him. His parents were waiting him on the surface of the water because the parents want him to learn the art of fishing also. He found his whole family waiting for him on the surface of the ocean. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. They were making a loud sound, calling to him. They were signaling to him. They were calling to him. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. This little seagull, he did not know that sea flooring is not a solid flooring. He thought that the sea was like a land. So he dropped his legs all of a sudden. He dropped his legs thinking that the sea was like a land. Then his legs sank into it. This is quite natural. When you drop something in the water, definitely it will sink. So when he dropped his legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. He was frightened now. When his legs sank into it, he screamed with fear and tried to rise. He wanted to get out of the water and tried to rise by flapping his wings. But the child was very, very tired. He was very hungry. And this flight was something very tiresome, very risky for him. So he had no energy in him. He was totally tired, exhausted. So he could not rise. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise. Exhausted by the strange exercise, because he was taking his first flight. It was a strange exercise for him. So he was extremely tired. He had no energy to rise up from the floor of the ocean. His feet sank into the green sea. He allowed. He couldn't rise. So he allowed. He remained there. He remained there. He did not rise. He remained there. Slowly he found himself floating on the surface of the ocean. His feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. That means there was a limit. After that, when his legs sank into it, his body, his chest, his abdomen, his stomach touched the waves, and he was floating. He found himself floating along with the movement of the water. That was sure. He was sure that he was no more going down into the water. So that was also a wonderful experience for him. He remained there. Slowly he found himself floating on the surface of the ocean when his belly touched it. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish, and the family was highly excited. They were screaming with joy, and it was an unforgettable day for them. His family screamed with joy, praising him and offering him with pieces of tasty fish, because he had been hungry for the last so many hours. So they knew very well that the child is to be rewarded. The child is to be given the most delicious food as a reward for his attempt. So his family screamed with joy, praising him and offering him with the pieces of fish. So what did he do? He had made his first flight. That means they were highly overjoyed to see the little child making his first flight a successful one. Now, is it clear to you? I would like to read the lesson once again from the beginning till the last. I just want you to look into the text properly and grasp the meanings. In case if you are having any problem with the meaning, you have to refer a dictionary, find word meanings, and write in your classwork copy. Sure? Yes, come on. Lesson number 1, his first flight. The young seagull was alone on his sledge. His 2 brothers and his sister had already flown away the day before. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings, he became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. He felt certain that his wings would never support him, so he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. Even when each of his brothers and his little sister, whose wings were far shorter than his own, ran to the brink, flapped their wings, and flew away, he failed to muster up courage to take that plunge which appeared to him so desperate. His father and mother had come around, calling to him shrilly, upbraiding him, threatening to let him starve on his sledge unless he flew away. But for the life of him, he could not move. That was 24 hours ago. Since then, nobody had come near him. The day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister, perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim the waves and how to dive for fish. He had, in fact, seen his older brother catch his first herring and devour it, standing on a rock while his parents circled around, raising a proud cackle. And all the morning, the whole family had walked about on the big plateau, midway down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his cowardice. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing on his sledge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. He stepped slowly up to the brink of the ledge, and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. Still they took no notice of him. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. Now and again, she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. "Ga, ga, ga," he cried, begging her to bring him some food. "Gokola," she screamed back derisively. But he kept calling plaintively, and after a minute or so he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. But when she was just opposite him, she halted, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within the reach of his beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. Then a monstrous terror seized him, and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a minute. The next moment he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach, and against his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once, and he soared upwards. "Ga, ga, ga, Gokola!" His mother swept past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. Then his father flew over him screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, curveting and banging and soaring and diving. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly, and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him, with the little ridges moving over it, and turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. He dropped his leg to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise, exhausted by the strange exercise. His feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. Okay? Tomorrow we will discuss the question answers. Okay? See you again. Bye.